Hey, fellas, I'm Dale Carter, 58 years old, and I've got a story that'll hit you right in the gut. After 25 years of marriage, my wife Karen cheated on me, called me boring, and treated me like a spare tire, someone she could keep around just in case her new fling didn't work out. But I didn't sit there and take it. I turned the tables and made her regret every word. Stick around to hear how I took back my life and showed her what she threw away. Hit that like button if you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved. And let's dive into this wild ride. Drop your city in the comments. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Karen and I met in college back in 1994. I was 27, studying economics, and she was 25, a business major with a sharp mind and a smile that could light up a room. We dated for 4 years, got married in 1998, and built a life together. 3 kids, a house in a quiet suburb of Chicago, the whole American dream. I was a logistics guy, worked my way up to junior partner at a firm owned by Karen's family, negotiating deals that took me to places like London and Hong Kong. I loved adventure, kayaking off Long Island, skiing steep slopes, riding my Triumph Spitfire, and motocross on muddy trails, but Karen didn't like that side of me. She said it was too risky for a husband and father, so I gave it all up for her. I traded my dirt bike for a road bike, my Spitfire for a minivan, yes, a minivan with fake wood paneling. I stopped skiing the backcountry, sold my scuba gear, and joined a gym with a climbing wall instead of hitting real mountains. I even cut back on international travel for work. Even though those trips brought in big bonuses for our family, Karen hated when I was gone. So I started using teleconferencing, chartering small planes to get home faster, anything to keep her happy. I became the safe guy she wanted, coaching our kids' soccer games, skiing bunny slopes, driving that damn minivan. I thought I was doing the right thing, being a good husband and father, but over the years, I lost myself. I became bored, and apparently, so did she. It was early March 2025 when everything fell apart. I came home from work one evening, tired from a long day of meetings, and found Karen sitting at the kitchen table, her arms crossed, a cold look in her eyes. "Dale," she said, her voice flat. "I'm bored. I've been bored for years. I'm going to start dating someone else." I stood there, stunned, a beer in my hand, feeling like I'd been sucker punched. "Bored," I echoed, my voice low. "After 25 years, you're bored?" She nodded, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "You're boring." "Dale, I need excitement, something you can't give me." I didn't cry. I don't believe in crying over a woman who'd already checked out. But her words cut deep. Boring. I'd given up everything for her, molded myself into the man she wanted, and now I was boring. I took a long sip of my beer, letting her words sink in. She wasn't leaving me. Not yet. She made that clear. She expected me to stay home, to be her safety net, the reliable guy she could come back to if her new fling didn't work out. She treated me like a spare tire, something you keep in the trunk, just in case. I felt a mix of anger and clarity wash over me. I wasn't grieving her betrayal. I was pissed. I'd spent 25 years building a life for us, raising our kids, providing for our family. And this was my reward, being called boring while she went off to chase excitement with someone else. No way. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for her to come to her senses. That night, I made a decision. If Karen thought I was boring, I'd show her just how wrong she was. I'd take back the man I used to be. The thrill seeker, the adventurer, the guy who lived life on his terms. I didn't sign up to be her backup plan. All bets were off, all vows canceled. If she could break our marriage with her, I'm bored excuse, then I could break free too. I went to the garage, dug out my old riding boots, the ones Karen used to love seeing me in. I'd gained some weight over the years, but it was all muscle in my upper body, and those boots still fit like a glove. I threw on a sweatshirt, jeans, a splash of aftershave, and a sport coat. I looked in the mirror and saw a man I hadn't seen in years. "Not boring," I muttered to myself, a grin spreading across my face. Karen was in the shower, getting ready for her date. When I grabbed my keys and headed out, she stepped out, wrapped in a towel, and saw me in my boots and jacket. "What are you doing tonight?" she asked, her eyes narrowing. "Nothing special," I said, my tone casual but sharp. Who said a bore can't have class? I was out the door before she could respond, the minivan roaring to life. Okay, more like hissing, but it got me moving. As I pulled out of the driveway, I saw her pop out the front door in her robe, her face a mix of confusion and anger. My phone rang, but I let it go to voicemail. I'd recorded a new message just for her. "This is Dale. I can't answer the phone tonight because I'm either driving or bored. If you're looking for a thrill, call my wife Karen at 555-4269. She'll be happy to talk about me. Otherwise, leave a message. But don't be surprised if I don't call back soon. Maybe on Monday. Ciao." First stop. I ditched the minivan. I was done with that symbol of the safe me. I drove to a dealership and traded it in for 2 cars. a rugged Jeep with fat tires, fog lights, and a train horn, and a sleek Mercedes convertible, the kind of car that screams elegance and freedom. The dealer was thrilled, and I left with both. The Jeep delivered to my driveway the next day. I wasn't going home. Not to the house I shared with Karen. Instead, I drove 3 hours to my mom's place, a small farm outside the city. I hadn't seen her in months, and I needed to clear my head. Mom didn't ask why Karen wasn't with me. She always knew how to read me. She made my favorite lasagna, and we talked late into the night. Karen's gone crazy, hasn't she? Mom said, her eyes sharp. I nodded. She called me boring. Mom said she's dating someone else. Mom smiled, a knowing look on her face. She set you free. Honey, go be you again. The next morning, I went to Mom's barn and pulled out my old Triumph Spitfire and Kawasaki dirt bike, things I'd kept stored there for years. I loaded them onto a trailer I'd bought, my mom watching with a grin. For 25 years, you lived for Karen, she said, raised 3 kids in minivans and bunny slopes. Now you're back, and I couldn't be happier. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. My kids, Eli, Jenny, and Daniel, had been texting all day, worried about me. I put them in a group chat and explained, I'm fine. At Grandma's, your mom and I don't see eye to eye. She thinks I'm boring, so I'm doing something about it. Ask her what she did. Jenny texted back, Dad, this doesn't sound like Mom. She'd never jeopardize our family. I replied, ask her for the truth, sweetheart. Later, Jenny texted again, sorry. Dad, I can't believe Mom was dating another man. I wrote back, I'm living my life now. Kiddo, she set me free. Now, fellas, if you've ever been called boring by someone who didn't see your worth, drop a comment below. Just say I've been there. I'll read everyone and reply. Keep listening, because I'm going to tell you how I made Karen regret her betrayal and built a life better than ever. Sunday morning, I was at Mom's favorite bakery, helping her with chores around the house, when my phone buzzed with an angry text from Karen. The Jeep and Mercedes had been delivered to our driveway, but the keys were locked inside the Jeep, blocking her car in the garage. I laughed out loud, picturing her fuming as she stared at my new toys. I texted the delivery team a thank you and a tip for their perfect timing. Later that day, I drove home, not to stay, but to grab a few things. Karen's car was still there, trapped by my Jeep and trailer, my Spitfire and Kawasaki gleaming in the sunlight. She ran out as I jumped into the Mercedes, trying to stop me, but I just chuckled and drove off. My ass wasn't boring, and she was about to learn that the hard way. I checked into the Hyatt Hotel near my office, renting a penthouse room with the bonuses I'd earned over the years. I slept better than I had in months, the weight of Karen's betrayal lifting off my shoulders. The next day, I went to work with a fire in my gut. I told my team we were going on a big trip to Hong Kong. 160 acres of prime industrial property were on the table, and negotiations had stalled. It was time to flex my muscles. My team was thrilled, shortlisting 3 more acquisitions for us to scout while we were there. I gave them the green light. We're going in with guns blazing. Warn the lawyers, we'll be working through serious paperwork for at least a month. Bring your families if you want. I'll cover the hotel, airfare, and expenses. I want you happy. Greedy and effective. My heir apparent, Carter Douglas, grinned. Nice to see you again. Boss? I pulled Kim, my numbers geek, into my office and laid out the plan. This is your big chance. Kim, I said, we'll work fast, close deals, resell some acquisitions, and open new markets. You'll be my 247 support, back every argument I make before I make it. She nodded, her eyes gleaming with ambition. I added, pick me up Friday morning in a limo, dress sharp. I want Karen to be jealous when she sees you. Kim smirked, and I knew she'd deliver. That week, I prepped for the trip, even chartering a plane for a skydiving jump to get my adrenaline pumping again. I posted the video on Facebook, captioned, my ass is boring. My kids loved it, texting me, the real you is back. Dad, Karen, on the other hand, blew up my phone with missed calls and messages, but I ignored her. Friday morning, Kim arrived in a limo, looking stunning in a tight dress, with Jen, our driver, in a uniform with short shorts. I stepped out in gabardine pants and a stylish sports shirt, my luggage packed for an 18-hour flight to Asia. Karen came downstairs, drawn by the smell of my coffee. I make great coffee. Hers sucks, and froze when she saw me. Dale, you're home. Why didn't you answer my calls? I was worried, she said, her voice a mix of relief and frustration. No need to worry, I said, sipping my coffee. I'm doing what I like. She crossed her arms. Don't I deserve a better explanation? I set my cup down. My voice cold. Last week, you said you'd do whatever you wanted, and I couldn't stop you, so I decided if my wife can make choices against my wishes, I can too. If this is the new us, I can live with it. She tried to argue, bringing up my responsibilities as a husband and father, but I cut her off. We settled that a long time ago. Karen, I gave up everything for you and the kids, drove the minivan, skied bunny slopes, stopped jumping out of planes. You called me boring, but I was bored because of you. The kids are grown now. With college funds and trust funds they don't even know about yet. They'll be fine. Even if my parachute doesn't open, I'm done living for your rules. The doorbell rang, and Jen and Kim walked in, their presence commanding the room. Kim handed me a dossier, listing our negotiation dates in Hong Kong, Sydney, and Buenos Aires. Karen's eyes widened. How long will you be gone? She asked. A couple of months, I said. Plenty of time for you to continue your research. But do me a favor. Don't let your dates in the house. She started whining, but I walked out. Kim and Jen by my side, leaving her to stew in her own mess. Hong Kong was a game changer. Kim and I closed all the expected deals, plus set up others for follow-up teams. We made progress in Australia, securing a hotel group. And in Argentina, I negotiated with a motivated seller, putting more projects on our radar. I stayed true to my marriage vows at first, hoping Karen might come to her senses, but I wasn't naive. In Hong Kong, I reconnected with Carrie Moore, an old college friend who now worked as a professional buyer for tourists. She took my team shopping, got me a bespoke suit, and that night, in a luxury hotel room, we gave in to unbridled lust. I felt guilty for about 10 minutes, until I remembered Karen's open marriage rules. My ass wasn't boring, and Carrie's trembling body proved it. In Sydney, I hired a guide named Sydney, a slender brunette who showed me the city by day and her passion by night. In Buenos Aires, a hot Latina divorcee taught me the tango, both vertically and horizontally. I sent my team back on first-class flights, then rented a plane to the States, where the flight attendants introduced me to the Mile High Club and threesome etiquette. Before heading home, I took my kids skiing in Banff, Canada, hitting steep slopes accessible only by helicopter. I met a voluptuous blonde housewife at a bar, her story mirroring mine. Her husband had traded her for a younger model. We spent the nights together, and by the third night, when she screamed in 6 different languages, I hired her as my new personal assistant. Her translation skills a perfect fit for our growing international deals. I returned home just before Christmas, staying in a hotel near work to avoid Karen. I'd bought a condo as a Christmas gift to myself, but I went to the house to see the kids. Karen greeted me like nothing had happened, as if I wasn't boring anymore. We had a Christmas truce, ate together, washed dishes, took out the trash, but I slept in the guest room. The day after Christmas, she invited her boyfriend over for lunch, smirking like she'd won. I grabbed my bag and walked out, the kids furious with her. They packed their bags, said goodbye to Karen, and we drove to the city in my Jeep, spending New Year's visiting museums, clubs, and having fun. Back at work, my Asian blitz had caught the attention of competitors. I was hunted by other companies, and I told my team if I left, I'd take them with me. Karen's father, Mr. Adams, who owned the company, called me into his office. You've done a good job, Dale, but you've lost battles with my daughter. Should I worry? He asked. I leaned back, ready to strike. After 25 years, I'm still a junior partner, despite bringing in more business than anyone. My Asian deals were unprecedented. My bonus is higher than your division president's, yet I'm held back because I'm your son-in-law. I've got offers from Woodford Unlimited and Mark Manufacturing. Full partnerships. I'm taking the severance package and moving on. He tried to backpedal, offering a partnership, a new M&A division, and promotions for my team. I accepted, but my personal life was next. I rode my bike on wild trails, skied Tuckerman Ravine, jumped solo from planes, and posted it all on Facebook. Karen tried to corner me, but you can't hit a moving target. I led my team back to Brazil, Argentina, and Hong Kong, opening the company's first international office in Asia. I was named VP of Southern Hemisphere Operations, my team thriving. I gave the Jeep to my son, the Mercedes to my daughter, sent the Spitfire back to mom, and gave Karen a divorce. I proposed to Carrie. She loved skydiving, adrenaline, and me. We built a happy home, and every night with her was an adrenaline rush. Karen, she's unhappy, jealous that her dad adores me for making his company millions. She regrets what she did, but it's too late. Here's the lesson. Fellas, don't let someone dim your light. I gave up everything for Karen, but when she called me boring and cheated, I took my life back. If your partner doesn't see your worth, walk away and live for you. Drop your story in the comments. I want to know how you've handled betrayal. I'll pick one to share next week. Hit subscribe. Check out my other story next to this one. And share this with your buddies. We all need to know how to stand up and fight back.